Hello, hello, everyone. Thanks for dropping in. You have reached Healing Body, Mind, and Soul. This is your host, Aeriol Ascher. And of course, I'm bringing you a new friend today who is up to healing body, mind, and soul on the planet. I'm going to let her introduce herself. I think you're going to want to lean in. She is a yoga therapist and is healing women of trauma and helping them get in their bodies. I think this is a wonderful, wonderful cause to be up to. Let's lean in and hear a little from her. Hi.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on today.
You bet. I really love the wonderful work that you're up to. Just the tiny snippet that I got when I just read your application to get on the podcast. Can you tell our listeners a little bit about who you are and what you're up to in your healing practice?
Well, my name is Anissa Hudak, and I am a yoga therapist. I'm specifically trained to work with people who are struggling with PTSD, trauma-related issues, and TBIs, which is traumatic brain injuries. And I have a practice where I work with women who have been sexually traumatized, and I help them release the trauma from their bodies by utilizing yoga therapy and some other holistic means, but the basis is the yoga therapy.
Fantastic. Well, I think that it is something that's so important. I know that a lot of women, as an energy worker for the past 30 years, I work with some of the same conditions, and women in particular, we're such nurturers and we take care of everybody else, but we don't take care of our own bodies. And then if there is trauma, especially with this rape or violence or any sort of thing like that, if there is trauma, we have so much shame about it, right? And store it, the issues are in the tissues, am I right?
Oh,
And
yeah.
store it in the body. And I just love what you're up to, synthesizing your yogic practice and this particular focus, because I really believe that so quickly, that's how people can drop back into their body somatically. Tell us a little bit about the nuts and bolts of what it's like when people come to see you for a session.
Well, as a two-time rape survivor, I understand where these women are coming from because I walk the walk every day. And I was able to really, I fell into this. I did not plan this. I fell into it.
Ooh,
And when
tell
it
us about
occurred,
that. Yeah.
well, I'm an energy worker just like you. I'm a Reiki master. And for me, yoga is very grounding. I didn't want to go to anybody else's class. I didn't want to be on anybody's schedule. So I took a yoga teacher training course so I could keep myself safe and do my own practice at home. I kind of got the bug and I started teaching, which I had never intended. And I started taking more classes. And currently I live in Manhattan, Kansas, right outside of Fort Riley. And we've had men and women deploying, coming back from deployments for years. I live in the belly of the beast. And at the time, my husband was also active duty. So I understood that. And they had a series of courses called Warriors. And I took it because I was like, well, it makes sense. And I was about halfway through the first day and I said, uh-oh, first person I got to start working on is right here. Right. And that's where it really started to, happen. And when I found, literally my mat is my lifesaver. It's my lifeline. And when I got to that point where I had that kind of a relationship with my mat, I was really able to work through a lot of what I had been carrying. At the time, I had only been raped once. I was raped again about 4 years ago. And again, my mat was my lifeline. And even if it was, I just crawled up on it and cried, it's still yoga because I was releasing. Because yoga is about releasing. And so I get it. And so I kind of assess where people are in that moment when they come in. You know, what kind of a day is it for them? Where are they in their healing journey? And what do they need in that very moment to bring them some peace? And we go from there.
Right. I think people want the silver bullet, right? They don't want to find out that the answer is self-care.
Right.
It can't be that easy, right? It can't be that easy.
No, they want the silver bullet and they want it yesterday.
They want to, yeah, and they don't want to put in the work. And it really is about developing the relationship with the self and how you're spinning your energetic web, right? It's what you're sending out. The auric field, some teachers think that the auric field goes out 300 miles, right? You know, so there's all kinds of space for stuff that can be attracting yucky stuff, that we come in with our DNA as such. We come in as spiritual beings as such, and then we have to sort all this stuff out. And our society, I mean, you speak to this. Our society doesn't reward self-care, right? They just want us to suck it up. And if we're women and we're already caretakers, talk about that a little bit.
Well, you know, I think that as women and as caretakers, we put ourselves last. Because, and especially here in the West, it's kind of an American thing that self-care is really looked down upon. And, you know, it's kind of like being on an airplane. You know, when the oxygen masks drop, what do they tell you? You put yours on first before you help your neighbor. That's what this is about. If you truly want to help other people, you must put yourself first so you are ready to be able to help those that you want around you.
Absolutely. You know, the equation that I use is, out of the 100% of energy that we have, 50% of that should be for the self and self-care, and the other 50% for the rest of the world. Like, that equation alone will put the world on its head. Right. And I know you agree. We're preaching to the choir, and I know that our listeners agree. So what kind of issues in specific, if anybody's thinking, gee, I wonder if I have issues in the tissues, or if I wonder if I need some somatic healing or some yoga therapy, what do you think are the signs that people should look for that they even need this kind of attention?
Well, obviously, if you've had an experience like this, you know, that I work with, you should probably consider yourself, you know, in
In
need
the,
of some help.
in the
Hello.
category, yeah.
Yeah. You know, sleep disturbances, nightmares, ruminating thoughts, anxiety, depression. These are all symptoms. You know, I'm trying to think of issues with your weight. If you have put on a significant amount of weight, or you've lost a significant amount of weight. Women who have been sexually traumatized have issues with both of those things. They put on a lot of weight to become a wallflower and to be unattractive, so no one else will touch them. And
Yeah, it's
sometimes
their
they lose.
protection.
I'm sorry?
It's their protection.
It is. It's the protection
Yeah.
layer. And then for other women, they lose a lot of weight, and that's because of the anxiety. And they really can't keep anything in them. So these are, you know, some things to look for if you don't feel right in your skin.
This is a good one. If you
You know,
don't
just
feel
don't feel
right
comfortable in your skin.
skin.
Here in the West, you know, when a woman's been sexually traumatized, you know, they usually say, go talk to someone and, you know, possibly meds.
I don't even get me started on the over prescription of medication. So many of my clients are people that are trying to get off of depressants, antidepressants, so that they can feel their feelings, so they can even figure out what the problem is, right? Because it sort of anesthetizes the body and tricks the brain, right?
In some respects, you know, I have a therapist. He specializes in sexual trauma. I wasn't sure. I had always worked with women before, so going to a man was a little different for me. I have to tell you, it's been amazing, and I've probably done the most progress with him that I have with any of my other therapists.
Mm.
So it was, I was testing it, and I was like, if I don't feel like it's a match, then I try again with someone else. But within the second meeting, I was like, oh yeah, I'm okay where I'm at, and I'm actually able to talk freely. And so having a therapist is not a bad thing. I am on meds, and it's
Mm.
not a bad thing. My body chemistry is such that I need it, and it's totally cool. But in addition to that, that's working with the mind, and that's working with your body chemistry, which is different than working in the tissue. And you have to really work within your tissue. And for some people don't like yoga, and that's totally cool. Do you like kickboxing? Do you like going for a hike? How can you move? Do you like martial arts? How can you move? Moving is probably the very first thing. Now, in the yoga therapy, we do certain things to get into certain muscle groups that really hold a lot of emotion, and it's very specific. But that doesn't mean you can't have a release doing something else. And
Oh,
so I would really challenge everyone out there, find what really speaks to you. It doesn't have to be yoga therapy, although I'm kind of biased, of course, but it doesn't have to be.
no, 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 it doesn't have to be. But yoga therapy specifically works with those muscle groups, right? There's all kinds of things. Find what works for you. But yoga, and because it's a self practice, people that don't want to involve other people. Was a massage therapist for years and years, and sometimes people don't want to be touched, right? So empowering people to have this tool. I love your story. Your mat was your safe place, right? Your mat, and having people be able to take back their power and have their safety tool is so important. I
I'm
love
kind of
it.
like Linus when it comes to my mat. I actually had to have surgery done a couple years ago, and I said to my husband, I'm going to take my mat with me." And he said,
It's your safety. It's your teddy bear.
he said, "You're not going to be on your mat. You're not going to be on your mat for the next 6 weeks. What are you bringing your mat for?" Like, it's my best friend. It's got to come with me. And it was there in the room. Everybody laughed.
There's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears in that mat, right? That's a beautiful story. I love it. I love it. I noticed as an energy worker, pretty early in my career, I would notice that when people, I don't know if you notice this, I'm throwing this in the conversation, but people, men and women, I was going to say women, but really people, wear their auras weird when they've been sexually traumatized, especially at a very young age. And I noticed that their energy from the knees down, they wear I always tell my clients that they wear their aura sort of like a mini skirt and a high beehive, right? That's kind of shifted up, because the lower chakras are not as strong, right? So it doesn't have that grounding force. And a lot of times people are coming to see me because they don't have an energy practice of their own, so they're not aware of that. But you can see them, and if you're energetically sensitive, you'll see that they wear them the energy is very up in the and sometimes not even attached to the body. Sometimes it'll be up further than the knees even. But what a great practice, because yoga gets you right in your body physically, right? You got to get on your mat. That's the place where all the magic starts, according to Anissa. And you have to get going so that you can develop that relationship. I love it all. What do you notice about people's energy? Or are you an energy practitioner? You mentioned a little bit that you're an energy practitioner. What do you notice energetically about people that have been traumatized?
The need for grounding.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, obviously the need for grounding, as you mentioned, the lower chakras are not really working at full function.
Yeah.
One of the things that I do in that case, when I realize that this is what's occurring, and I can see it, or they are acting in such a way. I take the practice really right down to the mat, and I have them on their knees. I have them sitting. We really bring it down instead of standing poses.
Mm.
And so that really helps them, you know, getting closer to the earth to really help try to activate, you know, those lower chakras. Sometimes they walk in and it's all here and it's swirling, and you can see that they're, you know, a mess. And again, I bring it back down to the mat, closer to the floor, to bring down that anxiety. And that seems to help. Certain breathing techniques. Everybody laughs about breath, but what people don't understand is that, you know, there are certain breathing techniques to help activate you. So if you're depressed, there's certain breathing techniques you want to utilize that's going to help kind of warm you up and get you going. Same thing when you're anxious. There are certain breathing techniques we want to utilize to bring that back into focus and bring you back down. And so I utilize that. There are certain essential oils that I use at that point. That helps to activate certain parts of the brain. You know, it's not just yoga therapy. There's other things. There's psychological things that, you know, come into play. The lights are always on in my classes, but I might dim the lights if somebody's very anxious, just to kind of help bring them back down. And so there's things like that. Certain phrasing that I use when I'm cueing. I do not touch anyone unless I absolutely have to. You know, there's a lot of things that happen in the class. And it really depends on what these people need in that very moment.
Awesome. Well, if our listeners would love to get a piece of whatever you've got going on, or if they would like to reach out to you and know more, where's a great place for them to get a hold of you, Anissa?
Well, if you'd like to try to find me, I am at traumahealingyoga.com. I am on most social media platforms. I have a website, obviously. I do have a special gift for your guests. And I will actually send you that link so you can put that out there. It is a list of my 7 favorite apps for their phone that will help them manage some of their symptoms.
Awesome. So these are meditation apps? Is
All kinds of maps.
I see.
Apps.
Okay.
Blech.
All right. And you don't have that link right now that we can announce?
I don't have it on me.
Oh,
No.
okay.
Sorry,
So we'll
I
put
will
it
send
in the
to you.
show. So we'll put it in the show notes. That is amazing. And do you have, before we leave, I gotta know, do you have any super tips for somebody who's leaning in and wanting to put something into practice right now, today, to calm themselves down and to get more centered in their body?
My quick trick is yoga nidra. So it's yoga and nidra, Nidra. You can look them up on YouTube. Let's see, YouTube. There's all kinds of places that you can find one. Find one that really speaks to you and listen to it. Yoga nidra is this amazing, yummy practice where 20 minutes of yoga nidra rest is equivalent to 2 hours of restful sleep. And sometimes sleep is, quite frankly, your best medicine.
Absolutely. Yoga Nidra, everybody. And don't forget, if you're in San Jose, California and suffering from any post-traumatic stress symptoms, come into Soma Sound Therapy, and I will help you get out of that fight or flight and back into your body with some vibrational sound therapy. Well, this has been a really, really awesome conversation. I want to thank you so much for coming on, and I want to ask you to stay just a minute longer after we sign off so that we can make sure to get all of our links so that our guests can get all of their goodies. Is there anything else that you would like to add before we sign off?
I just want to thank you so much for having me on today. I've had a great time chatting with you, and I, welcome your guests. If they want to check me out, I am online. All of my classes are online. I do have a membership for women, who have been sexually traumatized, and I would love to see them in my classes.
Awesome. That's so wonderful. You are such a gift. Thank you so much for coming on the show. And thank you, listeners, for dropping in. It's always so wonderful to meet another brilliant light and to know that as we heal ourselves, we heal our world. Until next time, everybody, this is Aeriol Ascher, your host, saying happy healing.